Week 15, Communicate Responsibly podcast. Couple things you may or may not have noticed if you've been watching these podcasts regularly. I missed a couple weeks and I apologize for that. There were a few losses, death losses, on the weekends. And yeah, those just took precedence and my head really wasn't in the game for doing a podcast. So I didn't. I am thinking something to do with responsible communication about grief, about loss, about how to communicate during those times of loss, and maybe even communication with people that have passed on. So more to come on that. The other thing, I will be dropping these podcasts starting with this one, week 15, on Tuesdays rather than Mondays. That'll just give me one more day to kind of get them together, and that seems more doable. All right, so today we, and it is a we today because I have Sugar Boo here with me. We're going to be talking about getting along and communicating with difficult coworkers. And Sugar has some experience with that. You've met Mickey McLovin. McLovin can be difficult sometimes, and especially if you have a personality like Sugar's, that is different. Are you okay with this conversation, Sugar? Is this making you uncomfortable? You can leave at any time. But I thought Sugar would be a good one to include on this conversation because coworkers can be difficult. And this will be our last week of talking about communication at the workplace. Then we're going to shift gears a little bit. But I thought this would be a good place to end it with talking about difficult coworkers. Like McLovin. Yeah, I know. She can be hard. So before I get started, here's what I would like you to think of. What defines the difficult coworker for you? What are the things that you would say this makes the coworker difficult? And remember, we're not talking about supervisors necessarily. We're talking about more peers at the workplace, people on the same kind of power level as you. Now, for Sugar and McLovin, um, I think it is the barking. I don't want to speak for you, Sugar, but Sugar often will call Mickey Barky Bitey. She does not like the barks, and she does not like the bites, which are initiated playfully, but not received that way always. Right? Is that fair? Yeah. Okay. So for me, I would say the coworker that I would find annoying, or I have found annoying over the course of my career, would be coworkers that interrupt, that dominate the conversation. That's probably my number one. My second would be coworkers that complain a lot about the job. I don't like that people complaining about their jobs just in general. I was brought up in a family business. I am a recovering, hopefully, workaholic, and I still have that thing kind of about, you know, fake it when the customer is in front of you. So I find those things annoying, interrupting, dominating conversations, and complaining. That's probably my top three. Some other ones that are out there, let me just bring over a few notes onto this screen that I made. Some people said, all right, so people said interrupting, complaining, passive aggressive teammate. That one probably doesn't annoy me because it's me, right? And a lot of this communicating responsibly for me has to do with that leaning into direct communication. I do it more at work than I do in my personal conversations, but this exploration this year about effective communication is helping me with that. Another thing people don't like is micromanagers at work. And here's one that annoys people, the person who never communicates until the last second. And again, I'm guilty of that. I think I have gotten better at that, but because of the squirrel brain, ADD squirrel brain, a lot of times the bulk of what I do in my job is training or teaching, and I will think of something at the last minute and then drop it in and go, let's just see how this goes. Well, if I'm working by myself, that's fine, but if I'm working with a partner, and I often do now in trainings, that doesn't work so well. It's not thoughtful. So, difficult coworkers, after you've thought of the what, let's think of the how. How does it affect you? Does it drain your energy? Does it kind of lower your morale and drive? Does it increase your stress at the job? And does it affect the teamwork when you have to work together on things? I would say it's probably a combination of all of those things for me. Um, so what we want to do with all communication, and it's certainly I've found it to be true in these weeks we've talked about the workplace, is we want to lower our stress in relationships. Oh, I've got to talk to this person, and there's the elephant in the living room I haven't addressed, or I am addressing it, and it's just banter and conflict the whole time. You want to increase your confidence in working with that person. You definitely want to be more productive, right? In whatever you do. You want to trust, just like in personal relationships, that you can rely on that other person. Another one I thought of might be the coworker who is the constant blabbermouth is the only thing I'm thinking of. But the person who rumors a lot, that's the word, gets caught up in rumors. And have you heard about so and so? And you know, if they're talking about everyone else, they're probably talking about you. We want to keep our energy up at work, that emotional energy in the helping field. Counselors often call it emotional. Um, your emotional empathy can get burnout. Compassion fatigue is another term for it, and people run from that particular job, helping, and I would say teaching too, because they get burnt out. And it can even affect your physical health, just like not communicating effectively in your personal life can. So, why does it affect you the way it does? Sugar, you want to weigh in on this? Do you feel unheard? Is there a lack of clarity between you and McLovin? Do you have some fear of McLovin that she may bite you or hurt you? Is there stress when she's around? Are there different priorities between you and her? From what I've seen, you both want attention, and there's enough love to go around. But maybe your priority, you get a little jealous. Maybe I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe that's it. Personality differences, I certainly think that's true between you two, and your communication habits. Whereas someone seems to just want to bark and play, you seem to more want to chill and snuggle and sleep. So these can be problems. And how can you deal with them in the workplace? Well, we're going to go back to some basics. But here it's about using them in the workplace. So let's pull out some of those seven habits. And if you're not sure what they are, back up and listen to some podcasts before this. The podcasts I listen to, I usually listen to more than once, especially if they're instructive or they're new kind of ideas for me, or listen to a different podcast about the same topic. I find that very helpful. So, one of the seven habits is habit one. Be proactive, not reactive, right? So, we have talked about triggers. We spent a podcast on that. When you get triggered, sugar, what do? You growl. You do. And I've never heard you growl before Mickey came in, but that is something that sugar does. It's not blaming. I understand why you do it. But some of us humans get frustrated. We use sarcasm. I know I do. We talked about, passive aggressive. I can fall into that very easily. We get defensive. Sometimes we avoid. That's another thing I do. I just avoid the person or the situation. So you'll know if you are falling into patterns that aren't responsible. If you say things like, you never listen to the person, you always wait till the last minute, you're impossible to work with. In all of those things, the you is out there. And effective communication, something that's real big in the counseling world, is keeping it in the I. So the flip side of that might be things like, can we talk about this project and how we want to communicate on this? Oh, that's McLovin. She's come in to knock some things down. But we're going to let her be her. We're going to let her be her. It's perfect timing for this. Um, you might say things like, I want to make sure that we're moving forward together on this project. Help me understand. That's a good one. And I've mentioned that in other podcasts too. How curious are you? Like Sugar's curious what McLovin's doing right now. Help me understand, McLovin, why you come in and knock things off the shelf. But now you've laid down, see? And we're going to give her credit for that. So the goal in effective communication is not to suppress your emotions. It's to respond in a way that improves the situation rather than escalating it, or in my case, avoiding it, because avoiding the situation does not help, right? And that's what you kind of want to begin with the end in mind. That's another 7 habits I've talked about. Begin with the end in mind. Is what I'm going to say, is growling at McLovin going to intensify this situation or help it along? Sometimes I've noticed, Sugar, if you're okay with me telling you, if you just play with McLovin for a while, then she's okay. I know. Sugar's telling me that sometimes if she plays with her McLovin, then bites her. And that's not fun. McLovin plays rougher than Sugar. It's a different communication play style, and that's difficult. So, Sugar, let's talk about motivational interviewing a little bit. When in communication, and it's probably different for canines than people, but you can pull out some of those tools in motivational interviewing that I've mentioned before. Open-ended questions, right? Not why aren't you doing your part? Why aren't you doing anything? Why have I got to do all of this? But to ask things like what's challenging you with this project, right? Help me to understand what's challenging, what's coming up for you. Or if you're willing to help me to understand how I can assist with this. The second part, we're using an ORS, open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. So the affirmation, Shug, is to affirm McLovin. And I see there's a dog walking by outside, and Sugar, if she barks, we're going to have the whole whack pack barking. Thank you. I appreciate you not barking at the dog walking by. So an affirmation is something that has a period at the end, but you're affirming a way that a coworker has handled something. Or maybe you're taking into account why they're struggling with something. I know you've been balancing a lot lately, right? Just that. It might lower defenses to affirm where someone's at. This is a big one. Reflective listening. When someone tells you something, you can do this at work, at home, with your kids, with your dogs. You're licking me, so I'm going to reflect a lick. See, she likes that reflection. It sounds like you felt left out of the decision-making process, is a reflection. I'm not agreeing with you. It means I hear you and I understand. This lowers defenses a lot. reflection, reflection, reflection. And then the last one, because remember the acronym is ORS, is summarizing. And a summary is just a bouquet. It's just a few reflections in a row. So now I'm getting a summary of licks from my conversation with Sugar. I think she's really appreciating this. Are you appreciating we're talking this through? Yeah, well, that's good. So a summary, again, might just be a few reflections based on what the person has said. And then once you have given a reflection or a summary, ask these questions. Did I get that right? Did I leave anything out? And is there anything you'd like to add? Haven't agreed with them. I've recognized and validated that I've heard them. And this can go a long way in kind of you understanding a coworker differently. And maybe they'll start to change their tune too in the way they do those things. Maybe they won't, but maybe they will. Um, I would encourage you to go back and listen to the different communication styles people have. I'm not going to go over all of them in this podcast. What is the style of this person who is annoying me? And is it because they have a different style than me? Maybe it's because they have the same style as me. But try to understand what their communication style is, and then you can switch it up a little bit to understand their communication style. What's that, Shug? Yes, Mickey's communication style is barking and biting. And sometimes you bark and bite too. I've seen you do it. So maybe understanding that a little bit more will lead to some resolve and a better relationship. Just putting it out there. You have autonomy, and I accept whatever you do. The other thing to remember is if these things aren't working, they may sound good right here, but you still have that really difficult coworker who's just not hearing it, or maybe it's built into a thing now between you two. If the conversation starts to go off the rails and you're feeling some kind of way, set your boundary. So saying things like, I'd really like to keep this conversation respectful. Um, you may say, I communicate best when expectations are clear, and I'm just not clear of your expectations of me. So help me to understand that. I'd prefer to discuss concerns directly instead of through email chains. Gosh, I feel that one. Email chains, 20 emails to something that could have been a 2-minute conversation. Yikes. Mm. And that happens a lot at my newest job. Drives me crazy. So talking to people who email rather than um, verbally come up to you. And I've noticed that a lot of times that happens with people who aren't comfortable with verbal communication. I'm a trainer, I'm a teacher, I'm a counselor. Verbal communication, face-to-face communication is definitely what I prefer. It doesn't mean everyone does. So, in order to make that person more comfortable in talking to me and verbalizing with me, I need to use all those things I said before that that causes them less stress. And again, they still may just be stressed by the process, but I feel like I've done my part. You may need to say something like, let's continue this conversation once the emotions settle down. And that's a good one in your personal life too. You got to watch that. So here are some things we're going to circle back and then kind of close this up. Um, in the workplace, excuse me, in general, avoid these things to the best of your ability. Stay out of the gossip, right? Stay out of the gossip. Be careful of sarcasm. Guilty. I think it's funny. Not everybody does. Um, Sarcasm, the root of that word, if we go back, literally means to tear flesh. Hmm? Oh, when she bites, it can tear flesh. Yeah, I know. Yeah, biting is not fun. Sarcasm's kind of like biting. Barking would be gossip, and then biting would be sarcasm. So we want to stay away from that if we want to have a good relationship with our co-doggies, co-workers. Emotional emails. I don't think that happens too much with Sugar and McLovin, but I've seen them. I go, oh, Dip, you probably shouldn't have sent this email. I saw some just recently from a person, and I went, oh, yeah, ouch. So, emotional emails, be careful of. You may even want to have somebody read your email over. I have a work friend, coworker friend, who I'll be like, I'm gonna write this email and send it to you. Let me know what you think. And this person will do the same thing with me before we send it around. Stay away from public arguments in the workplace. Ooh, this one was for me. Passive aggression. Be more direct in my communication, right? And another thing that happens personally, happens in families, and it can happen at work. Don't recruit coworkers to take your side, right? Really watch out for doing that. So in general, over the next week, here's some tips I would give you. Try to observe what's going on without assigning blame for it. Get curious and ask for perspective on things. Help me to understand. Use reflections. Just use reflections. And a summary is a series of reflections. You can use those too. Think about the shared goals you have with your coworkers. That might help you to get back on track and understand why people are doing things. They may do it differently than you, but why they're doing what they're doing. And then some questions to kind of think about and ask yourself. What type of difficult coworker challenges you the most? And I'm not looking for you to come up with a name like McLovin. What is it about them? What type challenges you the most? Because now we're putting it in a space where you can go, it's that personality type that really bugs me. How do you usually react under workplace stress? I went in this week to my office. We do either 6 hour trainings, it's a full day, 12-hour trainings, it's 2 days, or a 16-hour training, 2.5 days. And I went into the office. It was a virtual training, and I had reserved the room, a good computer. It's going to get some quiet because I have a cubicle that I work in. And we got kicked out of that room. So at the last minute, we had to go to a place we'd never been before. It was me and my coworker putting this on. Of course, the technology wasn't working. Of course, we were having problems hooking up to the internet up there. And the time is ticking by when I'm supposed to start this training. Under those circumstances, I react, again, not even direct. I get like focused and I gotta fix this without really letting other people in. Wasn't good. And I don't want to feel like that either, right? So I gotta own that and I gotta change that because that's gonna happen. Things like that happen all the time. What is your number one communication style of the workplace communications? Go back and look because that's important for you to know yours, and then you can look at other people's and see if maybe that's the problem. If there was a boundary you could implement with those difficult coworkers, what would it be? What would that sound like? I'm not even saying you're going to do it, but what would it be? And then what would it look like to seek understanding before defending yourself? So before going into this is why I did it, maybe think about asking someone, why does that upset you? Why do you get upset when McLovin barks and bites? Because I do not like it. Yeah, I get it. I get it. So that's the wisdom that Sugar and I have for you for this week. There's always going to be difficult coworkers. There's going to be difficult doggies. And I think how we respond to them makes a big, big difference in being responsible in our communication. Sugar, is there anything left that you would like to say? Seems like you're tired and you're ready for a nap. I'm down. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.